Why shop for Valentine's Day at D. Geller & Son Jewelers? Because you don't want to end up like shouldn't have case number 605.
Happy Valentine's Day, honey.
Ooh, what's in the box?
Want to open it?
Okay. What is this?
It's a meal kit. I thought you could make us a good dinner. They say if you hurry, you can get it on the table in 30 minutes.
Oh, babe, you shouldn't have.
High heat and high pressure make diamonds. They shouldn't make dinner. This Valentine's Day, give a beautiful piece of jewelry from D. Geller & Son in Kennesaw, Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Back Your Blue highlights special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Join a Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Matalon and host Tug Coward to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. Now it's time to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
This is Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Tug Coward, along with Daniel Matalon. He is the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. Our guest today is one that you will recognize, a man that has served this nation at the highest of levels and has been on a lot of television cameras over the years for many, many reasons. And as you hear this discussion, you'll understand why. I could go through the bio, but he would stop me and say, don't, because this thing's as long as your arm. Welcome, Bernard Kerik, to the show. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good.
It's an honor to have you. It's a pleasure to have you, especially knowing what this show is all about, backing people who serve. And I think, for the last several years, the law enforcement community got a black eye, and mostly for unfounded reasons. And that's been the struggle, I believe, in what's happening in America is people recognize, but they were told in the media that the police are bad people, they only do bad things. And is there an element of people making mistakes or even intentionally making mistakes? Sure, in every job, every platform, every place there is that, but about 99.9% of police officers trying to do the right thing, and I'm sure you've seen that closer than anybody else.
Well, listen, when you run the New York City Police Department, I think I had 55,000 members under my command.
Goodness.
I had 41,000 uniformed, 14,000 civilians. There are some bad apples at times, but the reality is 99.9% of the time, the men and women in law enforcement are out there to do a job that most people wouldn't have the courage to do. They go out every day. They put their lives on the line. They do what they have to do, and it goes underappreciated quite often, especially in the last several years. The Biden administration, the Obama administration was not supportive at all, and I think we're extremely lucky right now, and I've said this historically. I've known President Trump since about 1992, and I can honestly tell all the men and women that wear a badge that they're never going to get anybody in the White House that's as supportive as him. No one. I worked for President Bush. I knew President Bush. I knew his father. But there is nobody like Donald Trump when it comes to supporting the men and women in law enforcement and supporting the men and women in our military.
I love the fact that the new mantra for the new administration is a return to common sense, because we have abandoned common sense. I mean things that when you see it happen, you're like, wait a minute, that goes directly in opposition to common sense. And that's been happening for years, and it's not just in the past certainly in the past 4 years, but for years and years and years. That return to common sense, I think, is going to help so much, and I think Americans are responding to it already.
I think they are, and I think they'll get it. They'll get it more as the president's in office. He's a common sense person. He's a no-nonsense person. Doesn't have time for nonsense, playing. And when he wants something done, he gets it done. You know, I go back a long time with him when Giuliani was the mayor, and Donald Trump wanted something done in New York City. He'd go out of his way to make sure it happened. And ironically, and this is the thing that a lot of people don't see or don't feel because they don't know his history. If he said he was going to do a project in New York City, he would do that project. It would come in under time. It would come in under cost, and it would come in better than anything else in New York City. That was his history. That's the way he operated. And he now does that same thing in government. And I can tell you, this time, this administration, he's on a mission. You know, the first time I think he thought, you know, he's going to run government like he runs a business. He didn't realize that the deep state was deeper than he could ever imagine. He didn't realize he would have people in his own party that was backdooring him. This time he knows. This time he comes with a lot of experience from his administration and experience from the last 4 years under the Biden administration. And, you know, it's ironic. I was telling somebody yesterday, I think he's done more in the first several days than Joe Biden actually did in his 4 years in office.
Easily. I mean, it's remarkable. There's an article from Axios that talks about how the experience that he got after that first term is serving him well now. And Axios is certainly no friend to Donald Trump or the Republican Party, but they recognize it. They see it too. And before we get to that, because I think the experience is something I want to speak to you, Daniel, real quick. As a business owner, it's something that you can really appreciate is coming in, getting the job done earlier and under budget.
Yeah, and all that stuff sounds great to me. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm signing up for that 100 times over.
Count me in for anybody that wants to do that. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't know if you've seen how much we are in debt. And look, Donald Trump's a spender. There's challenges there. You know, he's a businessman, so he spends money. And me as a fiscal conservative, I struggle with that a little bit. I always say I admire Donald Trump a lot. I agree with him most of the time. I don't worship at the altar of Trump. However, I know the man cares about the country. He's made it plenty clear to me that he genuinely cares about the country, and I think that's important.
You know, I'll tell you something. He is definitely not a politician, but you know, when you look at the history of the office of the president, there is nobody that's ever hit that office that was more concerned about the country than they were their political being. And that goes with any, in my opinion, this is my opinion, and I know many of these guys, members of the House and the Senate, guys that wind up in the White House. I know a lot of them, and I can tell you they're all politicians at heart. Donald Trump is not. Donald Trump is all about the country. That's what he's about. Whatever's best for the country is what he's going to do. And, you know, is he perfect? Is he always right? No.
Point to the person that is, though.
No, there is
doesn't
none.
exist.
You know, nobody. It doesn't exist.
Right.
But the reality is, he is all about the country, and whatever's going to make the country better, that's what he's into.
I wish this was an original idea. It's not. I heard our afternoon guy say this, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're exactly right. The Donald Trump you're getting this time, the one that has a locked down administration, the one that Axios is reporting, we don't have any leaks. We can't anticipate what's coming. We don't have that if Donald Trump was in office 2 consecutive terms. The experience that you gave, Mr. Kerik, in that description doesn't happen consecutively. Now that he's been out of office, they've used lawfare against him. I mean, all of it has failed, and clearly the wheels fell off the bus on all of it. But if he had gone consecutive, it would have been that continued chaos, the continued leaks, the continued failures, if you will. This time, because of what he's gone through, he learned and has used that to his advantage, and there is nothing going to stop him from what he would say, make America great, which it is the greatest.
He's had a 4-year education on how vindictive vicious and just full of venom the deep state is, right? This time, he also has a different cadre, a different type of people that he's pulled into the administration. And when you talk about the things, the problems he had in the past, the backdooring and all that stuff, in his cabinet, he's not going to have that this time. This time he has Susie Wiles as his chief of staff. Susie Wiles is no joke. She's not going to tolerate anybody within that backdoors the president or comes close to it. She has sent them a message. You do as the president wants. You support the president. You're loyal to the president. And if you're not going to work here. He needed that the first time. He didn't really have it, but he's got it this time. And from Susie Wiles down through the cabinet, that's what you're going to see.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, Daniel. I would imagine that that's something you need at your office. People that are dedicated to accomplishing the goals of a second chance bail bonds.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's the mission, right?
Where do you find those people, though? Because the president, obviously,
finding good people's tough to begin with, and then you talk about this trust factor that Bernie's talking about. That's hard, and I do see. I mean, this story has been just, if you really go back to the beginning of what they like to say is the escalator, and then to now, who would have ever thought? I mean, honestly. And I do agree. You're going to get a different. I mean, he's been in, seen it. They've screwed him. They've done this, done that. We all, the good, the bad, the ugly. But now the second time, it's, I think you can tell even from the assassination attempt, even to now, from that time period, from then till now, what's
the thing that I think I've seen the most is how even there's not like and a reporter attacks you and you fire back. He fires back, but it's very measured.
Yeah,
that's what it comes off to me as. He's learned from the mistakes of his past. He doesn't give them the ammunition that they would love to have. That just doesn't exist in the first little bit.
There's another element to this that I think an educational tool that he's gotten out of this, and that is he wasn't the only one targeted, right? All the people around him, the closest people to him, Rudy Giuliani, his attorneys. It's one thing to go after his staff and his family and his friends and his colleagues and, people that work for him. I was deposed by J6 for 9 hours. I was interviewed by J6, the committee, for 9 hours. I was deposed 2 days by Ruby Freeman and her 6 attorneys. That God knows who's paying for these people. I was deposed and interviewed in all these other investigations. Every time Trump got sued or charged and Giuliani was involved or charged, I would get interviewed. All of us became targets of the radical left in an attempt to get to the president. And I think the president got to see it firsthand, and realized just how vicious the system was, the lawfare was. And he's going to make sure they can't do it again.
Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3, along with Daniel Madelon. He is the CEO and president of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Coward, our guest, Bernard Kerik, and we will continue. I want to talk to you about Tom Homan. I want to talk to you about crime. I want to talk to you about the January 6th pardons, the Bureau of Prisons, that something you had shared with us before we got started. The deep state. I want to talk about new supporters that Donald Trump has that he didn't have the first time, and that includes voters and people that you would have never guessed, like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, or just people that you would have never guessed that are now supporters of Donald Trump. It's been a changing of the guard. It's very interesting to see the change. We'll talk about that next on Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3.
Why shop for Valentine's Day at D. Geller & Son Jewelers? Because you don't want to end up like shouldn't have case number 735.
I got you something for Valentine's Day. Go ahead, open it.
Oh, wow. A new vacuum. Oh, Michael, you shouldn't have.
A vacuum might save her from sweeping, but jewelry from D. Geller & Son will sweep her off her feet. This Valentine's Day, give a treasure, not a chore, with a beautiful piece of jewelry from D. Geller & Son, making her sparkle, not her floors, since 1939. In Kennesaw, Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
This is Back Your Blue, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds, live on Extra 106.3 FM and streaming for free anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. Our guest is Bernard Kerik. He is a fascinating man that has incredible experience from law enforcement to his relationship with Donald Trump and the relationship that he'll have in the future with Donald Trump. I think there's probably some things there that you'll be working with the new Trump administration. Am I right about that?
Who knows?
Yeah. Okay.
Who knows?
All right. Well,
who knows? Yes.
Well, I'm going to have to try to pry into this maybe a little bit more than I thought I was going to have to. Daniel Madelon, of course, the reason we do this show from A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. Let's start with new supporters of Donald Trump, because we talked about how many people came after him. During his presidency, the first presidency, he came in, and you set it up well, Mr. Kerik. You said that he came in thinking this was a business. People worked for him. They did as he asked. But that wasn't the case at all.
No.
He had to rely on a lot of people around him to hire people, and in many cases, those people were not the right people for the job. This second time around, he's making those choices, and you see the difference already a short time in.
Because you know what it is? He knows all the players now, right? He's had to
and
deal
knows
with
the game.
them. He knows the game, and he knows the players. He knows exactly who was there for him when the chips were down. He knows who was there for him when he was being attacked. And he knows the game. He knows how it's played now. Far better than the first time. Like I said, the first time, he thought he was running a business. You come in, you tell somebody to do this, to hire this person, to go find the best of the best, and they bring in their buddies, right? This time, oh no. This time, he's picking people that he knows 100% are loyalists. He knows how they work. He knows how they operate. He knows he's not going to have internal problems. He has a chief of staff that is no nonsense in Susie Wiles. And I think you're going to see a big, big difference. We've seen that difference already in a week. It's been a week. And I'm telling you, he's done more in a week than Joe Biden did in 4 years. So it's going to be an interesting 4 years, and he's going to get a lot done.
He's certainly been more visible. We know about the Biden administration. We know about Joe Biden's inability cognitively, and I don't say that with any joy.
No, I know.
Though I disagree with the man, I don't have any ill will toward him personally. I take no joy in the fact that he is dealing with dementia. I take no joy in that. But I was told for 4 years it was my fault that I saw that.
Yeah, you know what? It's sad, but I have to say, from a law enforcement perspective, I think it's criminal. And I think it's criminal for this reason. There's a bunch of things that Joe Biden signed off on and did that I got to believe Joe Biden didn't really see.
Had no idea.
He had no idea. You know, the classified documents case, for example, they tried to go after President Trump on the classified documents, which he had a right to have. Joe Biden didn't have a right to have the documents he had.
Meaning president versus vice president
exactly.
in that role at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. And the U.S. Justice Department made a determination that Joe Biden was not, he was too impaired, mentally impaired, and he would not be able to stand trial, couldn't stand trial. Well, if the President of the United States doesn't have the ability to stand trial on that issue, how did he have the ability to make a determination on 2,300 pardons? On on the other things that were done under his administration. How did he make those determinations? I don't think he did. I think people around him did, and he signed a piece of paper. I just don't think he was in a position to make those determinations and decisions.
No, I think you're probably spot on there. The fact that we used to, on our show, early on in the administration, when you started seeing his absence and we started tracking, okay, when is he made available? And it was always after 10 a.m. and never after 4 p.m. with regularity. Did it happen on occasion? Sure it did. But with almost precision. You never saw him before 10. You never saw him after 4. And then we learn that the White House had even said it there toward the end. This is when he's most effective. This is when he's most coherent.
You know what's going to happen? You're gonna see this over time. I'd say over the next 3 to 6 months, you're going to have people that was in that White House that comes out and starts identifying the problem. They're going to basically go out because it's their reputation that's been diminished, that's been crucified because of his administration. And they're going to want people to know this is what really happened. I think within the next 6 months, you're going to hear people talking. This is what they were doing. This is how they did it. This is why they did it. And he was in no position to be the president of the United States.
I bet it doesn't take 6 months.
Yeah.
I bet it doesn't take 6 months.
Probably
You're
not.
already seeing the media. This is the media that told you Trump was going to be a dictator and just all this, insane. You have to be crazy, and you're already seeing them say, I think it was on NBC if I'm not mistaken, when they were like the most underreported story is Joe Biden's decline, and I'm thinking to myself as I watch NBC say this, I'm going, okay, well, why now? Why all of a sudden can you say that that's the most underreported? You knew that prior to today.
They all knew it.
Why weren't you doing something about it?
They all knew it.
Because they knew they couldn't. They knew they couldn't. Whether it's the media company that says you are not allowed to report on this, and you had the folks from Politico already say that.
Right.
You had a Politico journalist say, I was told I could not report on this.
And you're going to hear that from other media venues as well.
Absolutely you are. So I think we're already starting to see that. And there are going to be people that see dollar signs and go, I can write a book.
Oh, 100%.
I can do an expose. There's ways for me to make money because of the position
100%.
that I held. Yeah,
it's coming.
That's absolutely coming. You're exactly right. So then let's talk about the voters that saw through what the media told you. The media, 96% of the media we know is liberal. 96%. You're not getting a fair view of anything if you watch the news at night. That's why I don't watch the news at night. I haven't in years because I know better. I know what I'm going to get. You had the reporter from PBS that said, I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal, and what's happening at PBS is wrong. We don't give both sides of the story. We only give my side of the story. And it's the side that I agree on, but it's not right.
Right.
And then they fired him.
Yeah.
That's when you know, wait a minute. If everybody's echoing the same thing, and then the one guy that has the courage to step out and say, you know what, it's not right, and then they give him the axe, that's when you know that things are not going well. Now you're seeing that change, though. You're starting to see the shift. I mean, Jeff Bezos says at the New York Post, we're going to be a little more fair and balanced, or that's going to be our attempt. The owner of the LA Times said the exact same thing. We can't blend our opinion with the news anymore. And that happens on any news outlet. Fox, ABC, CBS, all of them do it.
You know what happened? And I think I relate this back to 1993 when Giuliani came into office. New York City was the crime capital of the country, the murder capital of the country. Giuliani came in and basically said nobody wants to live, visit, work, go to school in a place where they're not safe. And if we fix the safety and security of New York, everything else will flourish, right? Real estate values, economic development, tourism will all flourish. And he was right. But in order to make that change, New York City had to become a cesspool. And I think here in the United States over the last 4 years, that's what happened. The country had declined so severely, and then the influx of all the illegals, even the left-wing media, as left as they can be, in those editorial rooms, they were having arguments on, wait a minute, listen, I know what the board wants out, but you know we can't because of who we are. I think there was a bunch of that, and I think the American people, they went beyond it. You know, I've got liberal, not radically, but pretty left-wing liberal friends in New York City.
Yeah.
they've been in New York City their whole lives. They were calling me like nuts. He's got to win. He's got to win. Please tell me he's going to win. And I want to say, you morons voted for the other guy last time. Exactly. Now all of a sudden you're dying, right? The reality is the American people saw it. They saw it. They felt it. And when they feel it, especially in these big cities, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, Seattle, Portland, when those big cities start to feel that drench of crime that they can't get out from under, and that's where the big money is, that's when you're going to see change.
It was funny to me. I don't know about Daniel, if you recall this. I think one of the politics is ugly. It is. It's an ugly game, and sometimes I don't even like talking about politics, and that's what I get paid to do for a living. Yeah. I'd rather talk about happy things. Let's talk about country music. Let's talk about the Atlanta Braves. Let's talk about whomever, whatever it is. But I think one of the smartest moves that took place that really encapsulated what was happening, especially with illegal immigration and the crime issue that followed that, is when whomever it was, and if you can refresh my memory, it'd be great, decided, may have been the governor of Texas that said, we're going to send some of these folks to New York City, and then we're going to send some of them to Martha's Vineyard. We're going to give these people exactly what they asked for.
Yeah, it started in Texas and Florida.
And if you recall, the people up in Martha's Vineyard, less than 24 hours, had the National Guard remove 50 people. So they said in the sign that's there at Martha's Vineyard said, everyone's welcome here. Nobody's illegal. And then less than 24 hours, the National Guard removed those people. It was very eye-opening for me.
Well, listen, they don't like it when it happens to them, right? When you drop a busload of people off at the vice president's residence, they're not happy.
It's ugly. It is ugly.
It's ugly, but it was happening all over the country. And, the insane thing is it was intentional. Whatever the reason is, whether it's this global thing that they're trying to do, whatever it is, this was all intentional. They let millions of people into this country without being vetted, monitored, tracked, for a political reason. And it devastated the country. And I think the American people saw that and said, okay, enough is enough. We can't let this go on, and we have to stop it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what had to take place. And that's why I say, Daniel, that Trump, if he had that, or I agree with, if he had had 2 consecutive terms, you wouldn't have had the efficiency that you're seeing right now. And I don't know how this plays in the business that you are in. I mean, do you ever run across people who are in need of legal help? And it is, that they have broken the law when they're here illegally. Does that complicate things?
Yes. Well, yes, in some aspects, but the big thing that it will impact our industry is going to be the deportation side of this and the immigration bonds that are going to take place now, right? So that's you're more than likely going to see a ramp up there. So we're obviously prepared for that, which we will be, in that game to make sure that these people show back up and do what they're supposed to do for these hearings and stuff like that around the country. So yes, well, at a second chance, obviously I'll be available to do that all over the United States. But yeah, it's definitely going to change.
It seems risky.
Well, look, it is, but it's also a process, and people are entitled to this. So,
of course,
so it's one of those things where, hey, if someone's going to do it, why not me?
Right. It's just right. I mean, as a businessman, I get that part, but like, you risk. I mean, it's a financial risk that you're taking.
100%. I mean, you're talking about people that are not legally here, that are waiting on a hearing, and you're basically gambling that they're going to show up. And if they don't, then you're writing the check to the federal government. That's pretty much how it works.
That's a tough spot to be in. I don't know that I'd want to be in that. I don't have enough money to be in that spot. I think that's part of it.
Well, Dan's got the money.
Yeah, exactly. This guy over here, he's living big. Right. This guy's a big time. He's big time in his own.
Yeah,
that's
got it wrong.
He can do it.
I love it. Let's talk about. There's a lot of discussion as to what the deep state is, and was it even a real thing? And then I think it's been narrowed down to it is the unelected bureaucracy of the federal government and people that are, you heard Gavin Newsom say, we're going to Trump-proof the state. And then you have people at the State Department, we're going to Trump-proof the government or whatever that means. Is that the deep state?
It's part of the deep state. But a lot of it is the bureaucrats from within that were put there intentionally and allowed to stay there to basically create their own political agenda. And, I don't think there's a better description of it than Kash Patel's book, Government Gangsters. If you read through his book, it outlines the deep state. It talks about the individual players, about a bunch of the stuff that they committed over the last many, many years, all in an attempt to crucify Donald Trump and keep him out of office. It's there. It's something that was never realized until Donald Trump came into office. I can remember when the president came in and he first said, these guys were wiretapping my campaign. And I remember thinking, wow, I wonder where he got that, because that's a hell of a statement to make, right? And I've been in this business a long time, right? But I had to come to realize that, there were intelligence people, had access to the information, got it to the president, and lo and behold, were they wiretapping the president? You're damn right they were. Were they doing things they shouldn't have done? Yes, they were. And what's ironic is, if anybody else did this, if a cop or a federal agent or a state trooper engaged in eavesdropping without a warrant, you go to prison. They will put your ass in prison. You will go to prison for doing that. These guys got away with it. They did it, and they did it to a political candidate and a president of the United States, and nothing happened to them.
And nothing. Well, it doesn't seem with blanket pardons everywhere that anything will happen. I mean, that's
like
pretty good.
That's the new thing now. I mean, it's like, hey, if the right person's in the White House, you're covered, dude. Just.
How about pardoning your entire family? A blanket pardon back to 2014.
Would you? But wouldn't you do? Wouldn't you do it if you had the opportunity? I mean, I guess that's the question, right? I
would like to think that my family's not breaking the law. Well, I would like to think that. I got a cousin Curtis. Old cousin Curtis, he'll get himself in trouble once in a while. I have to go out there and pay the bond. I've done it before. I love my cousin Curtis.
Call Daniel.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. That's before I knew Daniel. Now I'll be like, Daniel, cousin Curtis back in jail.
Cousin Curtis.
He does. He means well. He gives his shirt off his back, but he's liable to break the law. That's just,
Listen,
just who he is.
And the same goes for Biden's family. Liable to break the law, and they did, and he knew it. When he first said he was never going to pardon Hunter, right? I made this statement. I said he has to pardon Hunter because Hunter has to protect him.
That's the linchpin.
That's the linchpin. But anybody, and just to give you some clarity, I had the laptop, the
51, the one that 51 intel officers signed and said, yes, this is Russian disinformation.
And Giuliani and Stephen Bannon, we had the laptop before anybody. We went through the laptop. On October 20th, 2020, I delivered a copy of the laptop to the Delaware police with Giuliani. We walked in to the county police in Joe Biden's county and delivered them a copy of the laptop, right? We saw everything on it. I knew then James Biden, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Jill Biden, all of them are in that laptop involved and engaged in criminal conduct that anybody else, Hunter Biden, there should have been a 150-count indictment against this guy for everything from fraud and FARA violations, tax there was child endangerment stuff that I saw on that laptop, which was the catalyst for us giving and turning over the hard drive to the Delaware authorities, things that I saw that I thought should be investigated. There wasn't.
And there won't be.
And there won't be. And now,
Scot-free.
especially on the federal level, and here's the other thing you just mentioned, dating back to 2014.
Yes.
Really? That's 10 years ago. 11 years ago. You pardon these people for 11 years on any federal crime they may have committed.
15 minutes before, so it wouldn't come up during the inauguration.
Right.
15, dude. Even the Democrat media, the mainstream media, were like, "Wait a minute, this ain't good. This don't look good. This don't look good." MSNBC of all places, we're going, "This ain't good. This is not good."
I mean, actually, Wendy signed it in the car.
Yeah,
on
maybe.
the way to the helicopter.
No, it had been signed for days.
No,
is my
exactly.
guess. It's been signed for days.
Exactly.
We just announced it 15
Yeah.
minutes before the inauguration or into the inauguration. It was really remarkable and interesting too. I just learned this, just from reading about pardons, because there's been so much with the January 6th pardons, and then the blanket pardons for Fauci and Liz Cheney and all those folks. That a pardon. When you accept the pardon, you're saying, I am guilty. I didn't know that. I call me naive. I didn't realize that. Now, reading about pardons, it is an admission of guilt.
Yeah, in many ways, it is. Not that you have to formally do it. They say you don't have to accept. These people have to be lunatics if they didn't accept, especially
right.
Liz Cheney,
Oh my
Fauci.
God, yeah. Fauci for sure.
But I'm going to
Lord.
tell you something. Fauci has serious problems, and he's got problems. Forget the federal side and the federal pardons. Fauci's under state investigation in Florida, and I'm confident he's going to be under state investigations in other states as well, besides Florida. He's got serious problems, and I can promise you, in Florida, Ron DeSantis is not giving Fauci a pardon. So there's going to be state investigations that go on that deal with Fauci and probably others when you look at some of the pardons that Joe Biden gave out.
What about internationally? Because you're seeing countries go, oh, wait, we were sold a line of goods about
Well, I don't know if the
origins.
reports are true, but Putin actually, there's a report that Putin wants Fauci extradited to Russia. If that's the case,
A war criminal extraditing a war criminal?
Yeah,
That seems
no.
Good
exactly,
Lord.
exactly.
That's the bottom of the barrel.
That
those
will
two.
not end well.
Yeah, that's the bottom of the barrel. Those two. Goodness gracious. We'll continue next on Back Your Blue with our guest Bernard Kerik, along with Daniel Madelon of the Second Chance Bail Bonds and the Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tuck Howard. This is Extra 106.3.
Why shop for Valentine's Day at D. Geller & Son Jewelers? Because you don't want to end up like shouldn't have case number 605.
Happy Valentine's Day, honey.
Ooh, what's in the box?
Want to open it?
Okay. What is this?
It's a meal kit. I thought you could make us a good dinner. They say if you hurry, you can get it on the table in 30 minutes.
Oh, babe, you shouldn't have.
High heat and high pressure make diamonds. They shouldn't make dinner. This Valentine's Day, give a beautiful piece of jewelry from D. Geller & Son in Kennesaw, Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Now back to the show on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue with Daniel Madelon. He is the CEO and president of the Second Chance Bail Bonds and the Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tuck Howard. This is Extra 106.3, along with our distinguished guest, Bernard Kerik. He was the chief of police during 9/11 up in New York City and has done so many things. Knows Donald Trump well, certainly friends and confidants there. Let's talk about some of the confirmation hearings, because Pete Hegseth was confirmed. A dear friend of mine knows Pete very, very well. They work together. They have been friends for years. That was a bit of a tough confirmation, but got it through. What do you expect out of Pam Bondi? What do you expect about RFK, Tulsi? I mean, there's several.
You know what? Most of them, many of them are personal friends, very good friends. Pete is one of them. I've known him a long time. I did think he would get through the process. I think that Tulsi Gabbard is one of the ones up next, and you have some of the 51 infamous intel officers going against her. I think that's to her benefit. Really, I think she'll do fine. Pam did wonderful, I think, in her hearings. And, they put her on delay for a week, which is nothing but a nuisance and a form of harassment, if you will. Kash Patel is up next. His hearing is on the 30th. I'm actually going to that hearing. I'll be there. I think he'll do fine. The best thing to do is get these hearings out of the way, get the people in government as fast as possible, and let the president do his job. I do find it really strange that some of these members of Congress, especially on the Republican side, right, Mitch McConnell and some of these others,
Murkowski,
they wouldn't vote for Pete Hegseth, but they voted for some complete idiots during the Biden administration. They voted for people that their incompetence level was beyond the scope of reality. They voted for them, but they wouldn't vote for Pete Hegseth. Really?
Yeah.
Come on. It's sort of telling, and I hope at some point down the line, somebody like Elon Musk, there's been talk about primarying some of these Republicans that just, they're completely out of line with the Republican Party. I think they need to go after them, and they need to get them out of office.
Tell you, the only thing that scares me more than Democrats being in charge is Republicans being in charge. Because I don't trust either one of them. I'm not kidding. You think I'm saying that in jest, but I'm not.
Well, listen,
I don't trust politicians to begin with.
I ran the investigative arm of the legal team in the aftermath of the 2020 election, and I can tell you this. Joe Biden wound up in the White House. They cheated? Yes, they cheated. But that's not why he wound up in the White House. He wound up in the White House because there were Republican legislators that didn't have the courage.
That was a good catch there.
They didn't have the courage to do the job they were sworn to do and call for the non-certification of the election until there was an investigation determining whether there was fraud or not, fraud or improprieties. The bottom line is, if that happened, Donald Trump would have won that election.
I tell you, there's a friend of mine that's on the Georgia State Election Board, and she was a person that said, it's in your head, nothing happened. Now that she's on the Georgia State Election Board, where you see it from the inside, she said something absolutely happened in Atlanta, Georgia, there's no question. But she did go on to say it didn't just happen in 2020. It happened in 2018. It happened in 2016.
No, it was consistent.
And it happened against Democrats and for Democrats, both ways. So it is deep and dirty, and it goes both ways. Both people have benefited from it, and both people have suffered from it.
I'm gonna give you some inside news that probably nobody really knows about here.
Well, hang on. Let's get some sort of sounder. We need something to wave our hands so we know that the good stuff is coming.
Coming into this election, we had to be extremely preemptive and proactive on dealing with the legal issues and the possibilities of fraud, improprieties. And you know who was instrumental for President Trump?
Who's that?
David Perdue.
Oh, yeah.
David Perdue was phenomenal when it comes to sending out legal teams to Virginia and other places where they were putting, illegals on the voter registration rolls and all this other stuff. I worked with him a lot coming into this election, and he was absolutely phenomenal on, because he got screwed too in 2020. He knows the system. He knew how it worked, and he did a tremendous job on working with the legal teams, getting them out, being proactive and preemptive going into this election.
Got 90 seconds left. What's your thought about Tom Homan?
Tom Homan's the man. He's the man. He's got a hell of a
Straight
job
shooter.
to do. Straight shooter. I've known him many, many years. He's a very good friend of mine. No nonsense. Calls it like it is. And he calls it like it is, and he knows the law. He knows the laws, the federal immigration laws, and he's going to hold people accountable to do what has to be done to get the scourge out of this country. And it has begun. It actually began 6 hours after the president was elected and sworn in. So he's got a hell of a job to do, but keep your eye on him because he's going to be out there. You never know when he's going to pop up.
I'm telling you, there's no doubt. Like
That's what it is.
This is a tough job, and you're going to be hated either way. Like if you don't do enough, you'll be hated, and if you do anything, you'll be hated.
They'll find a reason.
That's exactly right. It's a he's in a no-win situation, so it's fascinating to see it all come down. Mr. Kerik, thank you for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to come in and sit with us today.
That's all right. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope it won't be the last time. Hope we can invite you back to Atlanta a little
Well,
bit.
Daniel keeps threatening me with bodily harm.
Oh wow! All right. Well, let me tell you.
If I can track him down, and convince him, then
I hear you're going to be busy in the future. Am I right about that?
Well, it's we're all going to be busy. We're all going to be busy.
I love it.
Yeah.
For Bernard Kerik and Daniel Madelon, CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring, my name is Tug. This is Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.
Why shop for Valentine's Day at D. Geller & Son Jewelers? Because you don't want to end up like shouldn't have case number 605.
Happy Valentine's Day, honey.
Ooh, what's in the box?
Want to open it?
Okay. What is this?
It's a meal kit. I thought you could make us a good dinner. They say if you hurry, you can get it on the table in 30 minutes.
Oh, babe, you shouldn't have.
High heat and high pressure make diamonds. They shouldn't make dinner. This Valentine's Day, give a beautiful piece of jewelry from D. Geller & Son in Kennesaw, Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.